I saw an interesting TikTok video this weekend, and I want to share it with you today, along with a few observations. Here's what we're talking about today. Over the weekend, I caught the TikTok video of Lila Stines. I'm sure you all know the story of the sheriff down in Kentucky who shot the judge. On September 19th, 2024, at approximately 2:52 p.m., Kevin R. Mullins, a district court judge in Lecter County, was shot and killed inside his chambers of the courthouse there in Lecter County. The alleged shooter, Stines, then the sheriff of Lecter County, has since been charged with first-degree murder. It's interesting because they had reportedly met earlier that day and were seen together in the courthouse shortly before the shooting with no apparent animus between the two. They'd even had lunch together earlier. Surveillance video reportedly shows Stines entering the judge's chamber, other individuals leaving, then Stines closing the door and a short time later shooting Mullins multiple times. Stines surrendered at the courthouse after the shooting. Almost immediately thereafter, rumors began circulating on social media, and yes, even on TikTok and YouTube. With absolutely no evidence, there were people claiming that the judge was involved with Lila Stines, the sheriff's daughter. Well, what I'm going to show you is Lila's video, and it's in that ridiculous TikTok format that's vertical, so I have to clip it and reframe it for this orientation. I'm going to interrupt her here in a couple of places and offer some thoughts and share a story about Barbara Streisand.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lila Stines. I am 18 years old and I am from Letcher County, Kentucky. Most of you may know me, and the others may recognize my last name. On September 19th, a little over a year ago, a lot of people's lives changed forever, including mine. I'm not going to go into detail, I will not be talking about it, but I just have one question. Do you all not have anything better to do than to sit and gossip? You are taking my pain and making it your pleasure. You're taking our stories and turning them into big entertainment pieces, jokes, and for that matter, you're making it your income. Since when did that become okay? So my advice to the people doing that, get a job, do something meaningful with your life, and contribute to society in a positive way. That's all.
That was the first video, and it makes the point that there are people essentially profiting from her pain, and that happens in nearly every case. The people who do the news profit from doing the news. The people who do the commentary, people who do police videos profit from this. People like Law and Crime and Court TV, they all get a piece of this action. And they do it in the name of public service, even though they get paid for it. And I don't think there is anything wrong with that. Reporting on newsworthy events is certainly newsworthy. But reporting on rumors is not. And so let's listen to the second part of the video, the one she made the day after.
I come on here today to address a couple things about yesterday's video. When I posted that video, I only had about 950 followers. I did not think it would go anywhere. I thought, people from home's gonna see it, maybe a couple others, and that'll be that. So the first thing I want to say is I had good intentions with that video. A lot of you were asking, what stories? What do you mean by gossip? And what I mean by that is the stories that were made up about me and the other party. And that is where the gossip comes in at. I wasn't actually talking about the situation and what actually happened itself. I was more leaning towards the rumors that had been spread about me. I am aware of how serious this is and how much of a big deal it is. I was not talking about news or social media. I was simply talking about the people who sit at home behind a keyboard all day and say terrible things about my name. That's who I was talking about. At the end of the day, I'm just human. I'm just trying to learn how to process and cope with it all. I do want to add one more thing. A lot of you were saying, girl, this happened a year ago. Like, why are you still going on about it? To you, it happened a year ago. For me, when I wake up, it's the first thing I see on my phone. It's the last thing I see when I lay down. And I'm not looking for it. It's just right in my face. I have to deal with it every day when I wake up. So, no, it's not gone. It's not died down. It won't for a while.
So I'm going to chime in here and I'm going to offer some thoughts about the Streisand effect. The Streisand effect refers to a phenomenon in which an attempt to suppress, censor, or remove information inadvertently draws far more public attention to it. The term is used especially in the context of the internet, where attempts to remove online content often cause it to spread even faster. The effect is named after Barbra Streisand, the American singer and actress. In 2003, Streisand filed a $50 million lawsuit against photographer Kenneth Edelman and the website Pictopia, seeking to have an aerial photograph of her home in Malibu removed from a publicly accessible online collection. In context, Edelman was photographing the California coastline as part of the California Coastal Records Project, a state initiative documenting coastal erosion. His online archive consisted of over 12,000 aerial images of the coastline, including one that accidentally showed Miss Streisand's home. Now, before the lawsuit, the photograph had reportedly been downloaded only 6 times, 2 of those by Streisand's own attorneys. The news broke that Streisand was suing to suppress the image. The story went viral in internet terms, and within the month, the image had been viewed more than 400,000 times, and countless websites reposted it. The case was spreading quicker than COVID-19, and Streisand was ordered to pay Edelman's legal fees, but by then, the image and the story were globally known. So, I don't want to put any, I don't want to criticize Lila Stines. If there is anybody who deserves our utmost respect for their privacy, it's her. She has been the victim of a lot of people circulating rumors. Now, that does seem to be, in many respects, the way that news tends to accumulate on YouTube. And in fact, that's how it tends to accumulate on Fox News and MSNBC and other places, even the major networks, ABC, CBS, NBC. Because what will happen is there will be for example, President Trump meeting with Mr. Putin, and the news people call in the experts, right? In other words, people who have an opinion they want to get voiced. And whether it's Fox News on the right or MSNBC on the left, they have a narrative that they want to advance. And so the host asks them, "What do you think's happening at the Trump summit?" And they offer the media narrative that is favorable to that particular demographic on the left and on the right. And as a result, you come up with 2 competing views. And then when the news of the actual result comes out, the fact of the matter is they both missed the point. And that is an unfortunate aspect of 24 hours a day cable news. You have to generate something people want to watch, so you go out and you get experts, or you go out and you get commentators to comment on the news. Something to the effect of Ms. Letitia James has been charged with mortgage fraud. What do you think about that? Prominent lawyer number one. Well, I think it's a travesty. And then on the right side, what do you think about that? Prominent lawyer number two. Well, that's exactly what should have happened. They don't know that nobody has seen the evidence yet. It hasn't gone to trial, may never go to trial. You just don't know. And so, from my point of view, what we ought to do is we ought to, I know this is going to sound silly, but wait for the evidence. I mean, wait till there's something to report. I realize that that's not necessarily what sells a lot of news time or advertising time, but there are a lot of stories that go uncovered. And I'll give you a good example right here on this channel. The San Antonio murder case of the three officers that I have been covering, major media haven't picked that up. The local San Antonio and Houston stations have covered it because it's clearly of value to them in their region to report on that. But there's no reason why Fox News, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, Nickelodeon, I mean, I don't care. It certainly is newsworthy and could be reported on, but it's not being done. Instead, these folks would rather get people to talk about what they think or what they hope or what they wish instead of what's actually happening. And that in the mainstream is a picture of what happened to Lila Stines here. People didn't know, so they hypothecated. And of course, the problem with that kind of stuff is if you repeat those kinds of rumors and you do it without saying that it's only a rumor, you repeat it as if it's facts, well, guess what? That's libel or defamation. And it's especially defamatory when the suggestion that would be there would be something related to conduct that would be inappropriate between an older man and a 18-year-old girl. I do feel sorry for Lila Stines, but this video was the worst idea that she's had. And again, I understand that she wants to let people know this hurts. And I get it. I understand exactly what she means when she says, look, this may have been last year for you, but I wake up to it every morning. And of course, in Kentucky, I'm sure that in the news media, on the radio, TV, in the newspapers themselves, this is all over it every day. Some new little nuance about the case. It stays in the public eye because it's not the kind of thing that happens every day. It's not dog bites man, it's man bites dog. And so as a result, media tend to get hyper focused on it. And I can understand them being focused on the sheriff and the situation. What I cannot understand is using that focus then to broaden it and loop in this young lady. And I have to say, I can understand why people would make those kinds of allegations, even though they're specious. She's a very attractive young lady. She obviously has she's very poised, I thought, and articulate, and she's asking some questions that are difficult to answer. When did this be okay? When did this first become okay? Well, it became okay from the news point of view on the date that the First Amendment was ratified. But in terms of it being socially and morally okay, yeah, I think it's an example of some of the moral rot that we have in society today when you have a situation like this one where people will talk about anything for any reason and over an extended period of time. It's not fair, it's not right, but again, it does happen, and when it does, people do get hurt. I don't think most people realize that. And, There's an old parable about somebody who went to the preacher and said, I was guilty of the sin of spreading gossip and I want to make amends. How do I do that? And the preacher told her to take a feather pillow and go up on top of the roof of her house and shake that pillow out and then go pick up all the feathers. And that is a lot of what gossip is like. It spreads with the wind, and you can't control it, and you can't pick it back up, at least not all of it. And so I do think that she is owed some privacy, and that privacy needs to be respected. And I hope people will take her video and put it in the proper context of what happened. And so those are my thoughts. Those are, and my advice to Lila. My advice to Lila is get off of TikTok, get off of Facebook, take a 1 year internet fast. In other words, other than checking your email now and then to get your bank statements or whatever you need to do, I would stay off of the news sites. I would stay off of YouTube. I would stay off of TikTok, especially because TikTok just seems to bring out the very worst in people, like that knucklehead woman who was absolutely convinced that some English professor in Idaho was responsible for what Koberger actually pleaded guilty to up there. So I would stay off of that. Your mental health will improve, your outlook on life will improve. And the key thing here is this too will pass. If indeed a jury convicts Mr. Stines of what he is alleged to have done, then that will end the public's interest in the case and you will be able to go on and live your life. I realize that will be a terrible event for you if that happens because your father will wind up being incarcerated. But by the same token, closure on that chapter of your life will certainly be welcome in some respects. So that's what I have. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here today. If you have the opportunity today, try to do one kind thing to help somebody else. Any kind thing will do. Buy somebody a Coke, get them a cup of coffee, anything that makes their day better. That would be a way to help make the world a better place. Because after all, isn't that what we're all after? Now, YouTube has a few things that they think you might be interested in, and they're going to be showing you that right up there.